Welcome to Across the Pitch. Buckle up, everyone, because we've got an absolutely massive show for you today. The title race has been blown wide open, the European spots are up for grabs, and we've got drama across multiple leagues to dive into. Let's kick things off with Arsenal. And oh boy, do we need to talk about what happened at Brighton. The Gunners' title hopes took another significant hit in a match that perfectly encapsulates their season. Brilliant in moments, but ultimately falling short when it matters most. Ethan Nwaneri, starting just his second Premier League match, gave Arsenal fans something to celebrate with a brilliant finish in the 16th minute. The 17-year-old is proving to be quite the revelation, becoming the first player to score more than one Premier League goal for Arsenal before their 18th birthday. But then came the moment that had Mikel Arteta absolutely fuming. And I mean proper fuming, folks. When Pedro flicked the ball up and William Saliba attempted to head it away, making contact with the Brazilian instead, we got one of those classic Premier League moments where nobody seems to know what the right call should be. Video assistant referee deemed it worthy of a penalty. Pedro stepped up, and just like that, Arsenal's lead evaporated faster than their title hopes. The boss said he'd never seen anything like it in his life. Though I'd argue he might want to review some of his team's other creative ways of dropping points this season. Speaking of dropping points, Arsenal have now failed to win 4 of their last 9 Premier League games when leading at halftime. That's after winning 22 consecutive such matches. The gap to Liverpool is now 5 points, with the Gunners having played 2 more games. I'm not saying it's over, but it's certainly time to hit the panic button at the Emirates. Now, while Arsenal stumbles, Manchester City seems to be slowly finding their feet again. Their 4-1 demolition of West Ham marked their first back-to-back Premier League win since October, and Erling Haaland finally got back among the goals. The Norwegian powerhouse scored twice, his first Premier League brace in over 3 months, and suddenly, City looks a bit more like their old selves. But here's the fascinating part. Pep Guardiola is still not happy. When asked if this performance marked the return of the old City, he gave an emphatic absolutely not. The perfectionist in him clearly sees issues that the rest of us might miss, though a 4-goal performance would satisfy most managers. And let's be honest, there are still issues to address. The absence of Rodri continues to be a massive problem. We saw it clearly when Rico Lewis struggled with a bouncing ball and Mateo Kovacic couldn't quite cover in time, nearly leading to a West Ham breakthrough. The injury situation isn't helping either, with Ederson, Ruben Dias, and John Stones all missing out. But it's not all doom and gloom at the Etihad. The biggest positive for City might be the emergence of Savinho, who was absolutely brilliant against West Ham. The Brazilian provided 2 assists and caused havoc all afternoon. Chelsea's season continues to be more unpredictable than a coin flip. Their 4-game winless streak extended after Crystal Palace grabbed a late equalizer at Selhurst Park. Cole Palmer got his 13th league goal. He's been their one consistent bright spot this season. But Mateta's late strike meant more drop points for the Blues. They're now 9 points off Liverpool, with games in hand. But more worryingly, they're looking over their shoulder at the chasing pack for that 4th Champions League spot. The stats tell a concerning story. Chelsea have failed to win any of their last 4 Premier League games, and their inability to convert chances is becoming a real issue. Nicholas Jackson had multiple opportunities to put the game to bed, but his finishing continues to be a source of frustration for Chelsea fans. Enzo Maresca's got some serious thinking to do, especially with his squad looking increasingly tired as the fixtures pile up. The Newcastle revival continues to gain momentum with an impressive 2-1 win at Tottenham. Alexander Isak is playing like a man possessed, becoming only the 3rd Newcastle player to score in 7 consecutive Premier League matches, joining the elite company of Alan Shearer and Joe Willock. The Magpies went behind early to Dominic Solanke's header, but showed tremendous character to turn it around through Anthony Gordon and Isak. Poor Ange Postecoglou was left repeating, "If all things were equal," in his post-match interview like it was some sort of mantra. The Spurs boss was furious about the handball decision in the build-up to Newcastle's equalizer, but the bigger concern has to be their form. They've now picked up only 5 points from their last 8 league games. The youngest Tottenham starting lineup since 2015 showed promise, but ultimately couldn't prevent their 5th home league defeat of the campaign. The stats make for grim reading. Spurs are now without a win in 6 successive Premier League home games, their worst run since October 2008. The Angeball style that had everyone excited early in the season is starting to look more like a liability, especially with their current injury crisis. They've now conceded at least 1 goal in 10 consecutive Premier League matches, and their high defensive line keeps getting exposed by teams with pace on the counter. Over in Spain, Barcelona reminded everyone why Hansi Flick is considered one of the elite coaches in world football. Their 4-0 victory over Barbastro in the Copa del Rey was clinical and professional, with Robert Lewandowski grabbing a brace and Pablo Torre putting in a masterclass. The Polish striker might be 36, but he showed there's plenty left in the tank with 2 well-taken goals. More importantly, Flick's serious approach to the cup competition, fielding a strong starting 11, shows his intent to compete on all fronts. What's particularly impressive is how Flick has managed to integrate younger players while maintaining high standards. The German coach has shown he's not afraid to trust youth, but he's backing it up with tactical discipline. Eric Garcia's performance in midfield was particularly noteworthy. Who knew the former center back had those kinds of passes in his locker? And let's talk about Pablo Torre's statistics. 1 goal, 2 assists, 83% pass completion rate, and 6 key passes. Those are numbers that would make even Xavi proud. In Serie A, Napoli put in their most complete performance of the season with a 3-0 victory over Fiorentina to move top of the table. David Neres opened the scoring with a sublime finish before Romelu Lukaku continued his impressive form with another goal. Scott McTominay sealed the win with a well-taken strike, but it was the overall dominance of the performance that really caught the eye. The only dampener on an otherwise perfect day was the tragic news that led to Antonio Conte skipping his post-match press conference, with the team dedicating the win to a young fan who had passed away. On the tactical front, Napoli's adjustment to a more direct playing style is paying dividends. The partnership between Lukaku and Neres looks more fluid with each passing game, and McTominay's late runs into the box are becoming a real weapon. They've now kept 11 clean sheets in the league and have the best defensive record, showing there's more to this team than just attacking flair. The question now is whether they can maintain this form as the pressure of being league leaders starts to mount. Atletico Madrid managed to scrape past Marbella in the Copa del Rey, but it wasn't the convincing performance Diego Simeone would have wanted. Antoine Griezmann's goal was enough to secure progression, but the narrow 1-0 victory against lower league opposition raises questions about their depth and form. The French forward continues to be their main man, but they'll need more from the supporting cast if they're to challenge on multiple fronts. Simeone's decision to start Giuliano. Simeone raised some eyebrows, and while the young forward showed flashes of potential, it's clear Atletico need more firepower. The midfield partnership of Conor Gallagher and Rodrigo de Paul struggled to control the tempo against lower league opposition, which has to be a concern. Even the usually reliable Griezmann looked frustrated at times, dropping deeper and deeper to get involved in play, not what you want from your main goal-scoring threat. The shock of the weekend came in the Copa del Rey as second division leaders Almeria absolutely dismantled Sevilla, winning 4-1 in a result that perfectly encapsulates both teams' seasons. Sevilla's decline continues to be one of the most dramatic stories in Spanish football, while Almeria looks ready for promotion and potentially more. Luis Suarez was the star of the show with a hat trick, proving that the Segunda Division's top scorer might be ready for a bigger stage. The contrast between the two teams couldn't have been starker. While Almeria played with freedom and confidence, Sevilla looked like a team bereft of ideas and belief. This is their earliest Copa del Rey exit since 2013-14, and the manner of the defeat raises serious questions about the direction of the club. The midfield was completely overrun, the defense looked disorganized, and the attack was toothless. The fact that they ended the game with a striker from their C team on the pitch tells its own story about their current squad depth issues. But speaking of teams exceeding expectations, we need to talk about what's happening down on the South Coast. Because Bournemouth's season is turning into something rather special. David Brooks' 77th minute volley was absolutely magnificent, securing their first away win of the season against a struggling Everton side. The Cherries are now sitting pretty in 7th place, just 3 points off that coveted Champions League spot. Andoni Iraola has worked absolute wonders with this team. They've now gone 8 games unbeaten in the Premier League, their longest ever run in the top flight. Poor Everton, though. They're starting to look like a team in real trouble. 1 win in 11 league matches tells its own story. But the fact they couldn't manage a single shot on target despite Jordan Pickford putting in another heroic performance between the sticks is deeply concerning for Sean Dyche. Over at Villa Park, Leon Bailey proved to be the hero as Aston Villa maintained their push for European football with a 2-1 victory over Leicester. Unai Emery's side might have lost captain John McGinn to what looks like a nasty hamstring injury. But they showed real character to grind out the win. Ross Barkley's opener was an absolute beauty, and Villa's unbeaten home run now stretches to 10 games. Only Arsenal have a longer current streak in the Premier League. Brentford decided to start 2025 with an absolute bang, crushing Southampton 5-0 away from home in what might be the most complete performance we've seen from them this season. Brian Mbeumo continues to be absolutely lethal, grabbing 2 goals and an assist, while Thomas Frank's side finally got that elusive away win they've been searching for all season. The Bees have now scored 5 or more goals twice this season, and they're looking more dangerous with each passing week. Real Betis managed to sneak past Huesca in the Copa del Rey, though that 1-0 scoreline doesn't tell the whole story. Isco's moment of magic was enough to separate the sides, but Huesca had 2 goals disallowed in the final 5 minutes. Talk about a dramatic finish. Manuel Pellegrini won't care, though, as his side continues their cup adventure. And finally, a quick word about the goalless draw between Venezia and Empoli, a game that probably won't feature in many season highlight reels. The most exciting moment came courtesy of goalkeeper Divis Vasquez, who nearly gifted Venezia the opener with a clearance that hit Joel Poyenpalo and almost rebounded in. Sometimes football gives us poetry in motion, and sometimes it gives us, well, whatever that was. That's all for today's roundup, folks. From title race drama to cup upsets, and from European dreamers to relegation nightmares, today had absolutely everything. Tomorrow promises even more excitement as the games keep coming thick and fast. Remember, in this beautiful game of ours, the only thing predictable is its unpredictability. Across the pitch, over and out.